Hi, LinkedIn. I'm Lisa Bragg, and we're talking about professional brand. And I have two amazing guests with us today to talk about community building, why it's important, how you build your own community, how you really become a part of a big community and get something out of it too. So it's a give, take. And I know we were almost going to be late for this because we were already talking. So I already have Libby up on screen and I have Jill up on screen too. Just one sentence each about who they are. Libby, I've known for years now. She is a senior partner at Davis Ray, and she started something new that I know she'll bring up in our conversation today, and it's called Liminal Escapes, and it's a retreat, so very interesting. And then I have Jill McAbe too with us, and she is the author of It's Go Time, a book that I'm starting to get into and read, and she's also the founder of Boom You. So welcome both of you to LinkedIn Live and talking about professional branding today.
Thank you.
Okay, again, I'm running the whole show by myself, so we'll see how much fun this is as it goes up and down with the different things. So, you know, I found for all of my career, really being part of different communities has really been a benefit. What do you see when you talk to young people about, you know, how do they build and network? What's your guess advice to young people, first of all? Because Libby, you were talking about your daughter, so that's what this is about. So what's your advice to young people when they're thinking about joining and getting out there in the world? It's a hard place to be right now.
Yeah, Bailey's 24 and most of her friends have just graduated in the last year or two, and they're used to getting out and networking at events and things, and that's really difficult. So I'm really trying to encourage them to create a brand for themselves, and that brand means everything you do, how you dress, who you hang out with, what you eat, how you take care of yourself, and where you give money to, and what communities you hang out with. So I really, really encourage people to get involved with communities. And I've created a number of communities. Some are co-ed, some are women only, but community is what makes us feel good, and it's ultimately who's going to want to help you.
And Jill, what would be your advice to young people with regards to starting a community? I think, you know, we see so many things and we think, oh, I'll join that one and I'll join that one. But you're always about being strategic.
Yes, I am. My advice is to be strategic and really intentional. I always encourage people to, I come to things from a point of view of psychology. So I always say, go inside and really discover what you care about most, and then join a community of people who have achieved what you want to achieve and or who will cheer for you. Sometimes I like to say more than you cheer for yourself. And sometimes as you're growing up, your interests change. And I just encourage you to explore those interests and discover those communities and see what tugs at you the most.
And a lot of people who join communities, they think it's just a take, but it's actually give, take. Or what would your take be on that kind of comment?
I'd like to jump in because I need to speak about Libby Wildman. I'm going to talk about ears closed now. Libby taught me a lot. So Libby started working with me a while ago. And even though we started as her being my client, it's hard to say sometimes who learned more. But one of the things I learned from Libby was the depth of generosity that some people have. This is what happened. Lisa and I were talking in another one of these lives, and I started talking about Libby because I said, this is all I've ever seen Libby do, is she came into my community of my clients and just started giving and giving and giving and giving. And the fact that Libby is as successful as she is no surprise.
Oh, thanks, Jill.
That's a big cheerlead right there. I love it.
Yeah, but that's the point, Jill. I think, you know, when you give, ultimately you will receive, right? I mean, you know, it goes as simple as if you have a dinner party, everybody else is going to invite you to their house eventually. And you know, hanging out with people like Jill and people like you, this is, again, it's part of your brand and it's part of your community. And hang out with people that build you up. Jill's very important advice. Hang out with people when you're having down moments who believe in you more than you believe in yourself. Because we all have our unique skill sets, and sometimes we just need that kick in the pants to remind ourselves how wonderful we all are and the opportunities that are out there.
That's the number one thing, is that cheerleading piece. I'm so glad you brought it up so early, because I think we don't realize how much we need that kick in the pants, those cheerleaders along the way, because it's hard to build and to do something that's really out there and courageous, or build a career and a lifestyle that you love, the whole thing, it takes work. And so to have people on the sides saying, yay, you can do it. I'm glad you brought that up. So how do you be a good cheerleader for people in your community?
Oh, Jill, you take that one.
Yeah, I was, yeah. I was just thinking, I just yesterday, it was published by Authority Magazine about resilience. And one of the things I spoke to was sometimes, like, I know that as I was changing my life and going after my dreams and trying to make things happen, that not everybody was super supportive of me, that the communities I had were kind of like, oh, those seem like big goals for you, Jill, and good luck. And it didn't feel always all that authentic. And sometimes I felt pretty down about not feeling like I was getting authentic support. And so at first, how I found communities was I would join the coaching programs that we join and become a part of them. But I found as I went along that I would always pay for that upgrade. Like, even though it was really hard for me, I'd be like, to VIP or to that level of conference. Or I always say, try to get into the smallest room you can. And at first, those were paid communities for me so that I could be around people who had similar dreams to mine, because sometimes my original network wasn't all that supportive. Not everyone, some of them were, but a lot of them just like, what are you doing, Jill? I was confusing them.
Yeah, I totally agree, Jill. And today we live in a world where everything is individualized. And so there's a meetup. Like, it doesn't have to be the entrepreneurs organization or the nutritionist organization. There's meetups, and you just start hanging out with people who are positive and they like the same things that you like. And then pretty soon you get to know each other and you get to talking and you say, hey, man, I know somebody you should meet. And if you make a habit of that, others will make a habit of it. And so that may seem really daunting for people at first who haven't done this, but you can start with just, if you're a bird watcher, go hang out with other bird watchers, but make sure they're the ones that are fun if you're fun, or, that want to drive somewhere to look for birds. If you want to drive somewhere, like, you just start with real live connections. And I think even in COVID, we can do that safe in small groups, if that's something you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. Like, you start small, and then make a difference there. But I think it's also, that would be, I'm sure people are going to ask us, how do you do that in COVID? So I just want to open it up to people who are watching, because there are some people who are joining us. Rose is trying to keep warm in Edmonton. And hello from Toronto from Julie K. We'd love to hear from you in the audience. How are you building community, especially now during COVID, where we are in Toronto, we are starting to limit our connections and going out there. So it's becoming harder to have those face-to-face. You just don't, a lot of people don't want to. How do you keep building community and earning trust in this time where we aren't physically? Because that's where a lot of people, we meet at the elevator, or we meet in the coffee or wine line, whatever the day needs. So we're meeting that way. And now a lot of people are really challenging and saying, I'm not meeting people. So we want to hear from you in the audience. How are you building your community during COVID? What wins do you have? And what questions do you have for these two awesome community builders who have built multiple communities for different reasons? And so let's get into that for a moment. You don't just have one community, you have multiple, so that you can jump and go where you need to and build bigger things. Jill, do you want to tell us about how you've built multiple communities?
I think, sure. For me, it's always just been about what my passions are. So my passions are very simplistic in some ways. I'm into science, right? And I'm into a lot of things around high performance. I love business. I love building businesses. And I call it like my work, and it's also my hobby. And then I'm really into spiritualism. I'm really into meditation, getting to know myself, self-development. And so it's very simple. I find that if I want to meet people who have some of those shared light, and I love, oh my gosh, I love the outdoors. And somehow I find that the people who tend to come to me are also outdoorsy people who want to be outside, who want to be on the beach, who want to be hiking, so I don't even overthink it. I just want to have things that I care about in common with people. And I don't even, like, I loved what Libby was saying. If you're into bird watching, like, yeah, find that, and that's what I actually do with people who maybe their ambitions don't match mine, or we don't match on all levels anymore. But I find that thing, like if they're really into art, then I make sure we talk about art when I'm with them. Or if they're really into movies, I'm like, tell me about all the coolest drama things that are coming out. And I find that I love diving into their interests and focusing my time with them around that. I love doing, essentially, I want to be talking to people about what they're passionate about. Like that's my thing, is like, I'm very passionate. I can't help it. And so I just love being around people when they're talking about their passion.
But you've built communities though intentionally of different people. So what went into building that? So you're not just building in the birdwatching community, because you're building in communities of people who are coming to you for a purpose. And so you have different reasons behind your own building of the community. You're not just attracting people, but you're also actively building community.
So I am actively building communities, specifically communities. A community now is my community of people who are expertise-based business owners. So experts, coaches, healers, creatives, people who, and so I build that community intentionally, because I find that when you work with a community, like you're all going to rise together. People love helping each other. People love supporting each other. And I do that intentionally. I'm actually somewhat of an introvert. And I'm considered an expressive introvert. I'm a teacher and facilitator, so I'm definitely love to communicate. But I'm very happy alone. And I always felt a little weird. I always felt a little bit like I was like this weirdo, and I never fit in. And then I would just do my work and go into it, and my clients would love it. And I realized, why am I not continuing building a community for my clients? Why am I not creating something where these people who now all have shared interests, and I realized that it became actually my duty to keep these people in a community, because that would actually help everybody rise together and rise faster. And it turns out that, gosh, I'm like, I love it, and for someone who used to be like, no, I'm different, I'm weird, I'm over here. I've been actually having a lot of fun.
I love that, a lot of people would call it ambivert, but I'm not even sure that's an ambivert, where you like to sometimes be out, but then you need yours. I think you're still much more on for doing the spectrum. Yeah.
And worse, because I do have a master's in leadership, is a lot of people don't know that test actually tests you on multiple factors. So I'm highly introvert. Like, I once went to, you trying to figure out what should I do, right? So I actually home in wine country, and I took it over for 2 weeks, and I like printed everything, and I asked everybody what I was good at, and I did all this like soul searching before I figured out my method of taking people through that. And people would call me. I was there for weeks alone in the country, surrounded by snow, and my boyfriend was calling me at the time, going, "Would you like me to visit?" And I'm like, I'm good.
Rosa says, weirdos unite. So
Exactly.
Trina also says she's a bit of a hermit, always was a bit of a hermit, but COVID has actually helped because she's getting comfortable Zooming and online, and she feels safe in her home, but I can still connect with people, which I didn't do before. So that's brilliant. And we have Tyler coming in from not so sunny Fargo, North Dakota, and Anahita from Barrie, Ontario, and Jennifer, hi, great to see you again, she says to Jill. So everyone knows each other. Then we have Lynn Roger joining us too, and she says hi, and she's looking to leverage and build her network to find her next opportunity. And she's feeling guilt and discomfort, and she's never had, asked for help getting a role before. So I think that's a thing we don't always, let's talk about that. Great jumping off point, Lynn, thank you. We feel a little bit of discomfort asking from our community for something, but I know Lynn, and I'm sure everyone on our line today, they've given. So how do you then do a take? Can you give us some insight on that, Libby, about asking for something from your community?
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you've been authentic in your giving, without a hook, that it's okay to ask. As I have said to a number of my friends who are going through difficult times right now, you have made so many deposits into your bank account, it's your turn to withdraw. So, one of the values that Jill helps us with is receiving, and it's not just a women's thing. It's a co-ed thing. We all have a hard time receiving. So I think if you can work with a friend or a coach and figure out some of these issues that we have around receiving, and then you just simply ask in whatever way you're comfortable asking. I built the Collective, which is a women's entrepreneur community. I've built Liminal Escapes, which is where I bring in the right talent for people who want to be going through life transformations or becoming much, much more skillful at a passion. And where do I find these people? Quite frankly, all day, every day, in between things, I look for people on LinkedIn. Or yesterday, I took my son car racing because I didn't know what to do with him. And I just wanted to have a moment of feeling connected with him. At age 23, what do you do with a guy? And I noticed one of her instructors had a tattoo on her arm of her child with an inner tube in its nose, and she'd lost her 4-year-old to cancer. So we started talking, and she's looking for a life new journey. And I was like, hey, let's chat. And, there's a number of people I might introduce her to. And I know eventually I'll be able to say to her, hey, who do you know that might be able to help me, because I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. So I think it has to be part of your flow every single day of your life. And that's just a skill. It's a muscle. You just practice it. You feel weird at first, and then it's just like talking to your mother on the phone.
Just get it there. And you know what? People so desperately want to give. It's so funny when you ask somebody, hey, you have all that. And they're like, yes, of course. Why didn't you ask me last week or 2 weeks ago? People want to give because there's something, I think, and Jill, you're much more into brain science, but I'm sure there's something that it feels like it for me, that something lights up when you give to other people. And so when you ask your community for something, they desperately want to help you because you've been there along their bumps and rises. And so they want to give to you, and it makes them feel good to be able to be in that position.
Yeah, and Jill's book, It's Go Time, will specifically talk about what she calls your CTO, but your amygdala, your subconscious, and all these stories from when you were little that protected you from the big, bad world, and those stories don't serve you anymore. And so she'll help you with how do you retrain your brain, because it's so true. You ever been in that circumstance where someone gives you a gift and then you go, oh, no, no, no. And the person standing there going, what the heck, man? You just robbed me of this beautiful feeling that I wanted to do for you.
Jill, did you want to add to that?
I love that Libby brought that up, because one of the things I mean, across the board, maybe because such awesome people work with me. By the way, all of you who are here right now, you're awesome. And I find that learning to receive actually, I find that you will become better at giving when you learn to receive. So if you think about it, so many of us love to give, but we're not so great at receiving. And if you're not great at receiving, then you're actually robbing the person who's giving you something of what they're doing. And so there's actually a real beauty in learning that. I was at a conference where someone was teaching us how to receive, and they said, you have to be like, go ask someone for $20 just for because. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I can't do it. And then I'm at the front row of this like insane conference. God, I missed it. I wanted to go this year, and obviously I couldn't do it. But I was at this insane conference, and people were like up in arms and going crazy. And I left my purse under a chair to go out for a meeting. I was in the front row. And then it was all quiet when I came back with someone telling a super sad story. And I was like starving, and I was like, oh, I need food. I didn't have any money. And I actually practiced receiving. I went up to a complete stranger and I asked for $20 for lunch. And it was an interesting activity. I mean, I was assigned to do it to develop my receiving muscle. And I noticed, like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, I need money for lunch, and my purse is over there. And I'm like, but I've got to do this. And yes, I gave the guy the money back, but he didn't know I would or I wouldn't. And I bought him like a little gift as well, but it really stretched me out of my comfort zone. And it really helped me realize, like, we have to learn. And from that point, my business started flying. Like, when you are not receiving, it's more like, first of all, you're robbing other people of giving, but you're probably robbing yourself of your own business and success, because you're not feeling worthy.
You're stopping the flow, right, Jill? You're stopping the flow, and energy is flow.
And by the way, you are worthy of people doing things for you.
Yeah, we're just such givers. But Catherine joins in. She says, learning to receive is brilliant. So yes, definitely we need to learn to receive, because we all give so much. So we'd love to hear more from you in the audience. If you have any questions or comments about what we're talking about building community and being part of community as part of helping your professional brand, how it can help you grow, how we need cheerleaders, and how you know what, when we ask our community for something, that we definitely should. Don't be afraid to do it, because you need to receive as well as give. So some really great points that we've covered. So we'd love to hear from you in the audience if you'd like to join in, and we'd even like to see where you're from, because that's part of building community too, is being there, showing up. And that's one thing too. I'm part of so many communities, and people always think that I'm always there. I show up and I put the time in with people, because I think some people expect instant something from the community, but that's not the way it is. We have to build, we have to earn trust. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think you also need to be careful about spreading yourself too thin, because that feels inauthentic. I've looked at doing business recently with some professionals, and then when I watch them on LinkedIn and they just like and make comments on everybody's thing in our industry. And so I think I do want to build a community full of people who are a little bit discerning about who it is that's in that community, and you know, get to know them, and are your values the same? Not that you're in the same industry, but you know, for instance, I spoke to a new entrepreneur this morning that I'd never met, and I just reached out to her cold on LinkedIn. And we immediately figured out that we both believe, you know, that the universe has your back. And if you live your life from a place of passion and purpose, that the rest will fall into place, because you're going to work your ass off to make sure it falls into place, because you love what you're doing. Like, there's nothing, you know, magical about that, but it means that you're living in a place of joy more often. And, you know, I've had coaches, well, since my 20s, and now I'm in my 50s, so a long, long time. And I think what was really special for me with Jill was that she was able to marry this spirituality along with the science, and then with the actual business acumen, to take all of this stuff that we're talking about, community and branding and values, and make it into a meaningful business for me. And that's where Liminal Escapes came into play. And literally within 3 months of working with Jill, we had our first retreat, believe it or not, in Point of Arrow, Georgia Bay, 3 weeks ago. And we sold out within a couple of weeks. We had 6 people up there.
See, that's pretty fast for building community. We have Julie Kay who's joining us, and she wants to know, what would 3 points that are must-haves when starting to build your own community? So we sort of talked a little bit about joining communities, but how do you build? So 3 points to build your own community.
What are you going to give them? I think the first thing is what made me realize that I had to create an opportunity for the people that I was helping to have a community was because they had shared interests, and now they had shared training that was different than what a lot of the rest of the world were talking about. And so what am I going to give them? So I think 1 point would definitely be, I mean, maybe 1, 2, and 3 is like, how can I add value? How can I add value? How can I give them more? Like, how can it's just constant. So I like the term win, 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 right? Like, I honestly think if you can't say that to something you're working on, then there's an opportunity to make it better. And that is what I ask myself. How can I make this the best decision they ever made? And then how can I make it an even better decision? And I'll just keep brainstorming that. What would make it even better? What would make it really valuable? What would make it like the best thing they ever did? I would just keep asking myself that question, and that would give me ideas about how to form, create, and what to do for that community.
Yeah, and you know, one of the so I was gonna say, one of the women who was up at our retreats and is part of our community, Karen Whitney Vernon, years ago she started a walking community in her neighborhood, and she started off with one woman, and then they invited another, and they invited another, and they have meaningful talks at 6:30 in the morning. Like, again, it doesn't have to be complicated, but what are you looking for? Are you looking for friendship? Are you looking for business connections? I mean, I used to do Board of Trade, and absolutely nothing against Board of Trade, but I got tired of going to breakfast and just everybody handing out their business card and then hoping somebody needed your product. I just think that that's passé, and now it's more, how do we have live conversations? And I can tell you, with the community that I'm building right now, we often just meet for walks in the park. It's too cold to sit outside and have a coffee. So we meet at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock and we go for a walk in the park. And I'm sure Jill will tell you, because her brother, Owen Steinberg, who we're going to be doing some retreats soon to be announced in the future, we were trying to brainstorm in my backyard on the patio. And he was like, Libby, we've been sitting here an hour. I'm freezing. My brain's freezing up. Let's go for a walk. And we did. We found a sunny park bench. So there's lots of ways to still see people in a safe way.
Yeah, and I think for me, what I would advise people building community is, really being intentional about who you're trying to attract, so that people who aren't really the right fit aren't going to come. So anything that you're putting out on social media or that you're talking about it, that it's the right person. So while people want to see, hundreds of thousands, millions of people following or part of their community, you also don't want the right fit. You want to make sure those wrong fit people, those people that aren't qualified to be with you, aren't following you and disrupting you and taking up your time. So making sure you're intentional about who should be part of your community and audience. Jill has a thought right now.
Because we talked about this last time, but it's like the biggest mistake I ever made was not the biggest mistake. I've made huge mistakes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
One of the many mistakes I made. Who's kidding who? But one of the many mistakes I made was trying to grow a big following. And like years ago, I bought this book and it was like, how to get all these followers. I'm literally afraid of my Facebook account now. Like I never post on it. I'm thinking of deleting it. And I have an amazing business and I have an amazing community. And here's what happened along the way. I had someone work for me. They had like an audience of 45,000. And they were authentic actually, but they made zero money. And then I saw people getting 2 or 3 likes on a post and I knew they were doing about 4 million a month. And I thought to myself, you know who your community is? It's not necessarily people who are liking. It's not necessarily how many comments you have. It's your real relationships. It's how many people you can call up. It's how many people you can go, I had a super bad day. Can you help? I'm down. That you start, there's so many people online right now teaching you that you can put something out there and that you need all these likes and followers, and that's going to make the difference. I'm going to say, start where you are. Please don't try to go from have 2 million followers next year. The people I see who do the best are the ones who are happy to have 10 people in their community, 5, then 10, then 20. I see so many people thinking they can just skip to the top of a staircase. And just be yourself. The other thing I want to say is be yourself. I was coaching somebody last night. I was teaching them how to do sales calls actually. And they were so stiff with me. They were so I'm pretending their business was more than it was or whatever. I'm like, just get real with me. Just get real with me. Tell me about what you're passionate about. Tell me you're building this for the first time. Tell me that you like to practice on me. I will believe in you. But if you're telling me that you're what you're not, I'm going to catch it. So be really real. You are awesome the way you are. I guarantee it. If you can just strip down and get real. The longest time I was trying to look all businessy, things never worked. As soon as I went, oh, screw it. Things started working.
So Leslie James says win, 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 and gives us some applause on that. And then we do have a question. I know we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask if you can stay with me for a few more minutes. But Libby, Rosa says you are such a natural connector, and you really are, because you profile people, you do so many things to bring people together. And you started with doing dinners at your house. But anyway, back to Libby's thought. Her question is, there is such a power to connection and so much value. What is it about connecting with new people, especially business-wise, evoke feelings of being opportunistic? I'm not sure why that is a swear word. Okay, so I think what Rosa is saying is that you're connecting with people and the curiosity, their concern that you're being opportunistic and taking things from people. So Rosa, if that's not the interpretation, please join in.
No, I think I know what Rosa means. And Lisa, I met you through my women's entrepreneur group community that I created, which did originally start in my dining room, The Collective. And it wasn't about me. It was about connecting women with other women who wanted to ask questions, whether it's employee culture or financing, whatever it is. But it was interesting because so many of the women, and this goes the same when I was at the Entrepreneurs Organization, there was actually a rule that you weren't allowed to solicit each other with business. But I would stand up at my collective meetings and say, look, we're all here because we want to learn from each other. But let's be honest, we're entrepreneurs. We also have something that we want to grow, and that thing is our business. So why wouldn't you, if you needed somebody in our community, reach out to them and give them a shot? But I think I had to actually give people that permission, because Rose is right. Everybody goes, oh, so are you just going for a walk with me because maybe I can help you with your business? Yeah, not just, but yeah, maybe you can help me. I can help you, or you know someone that can. Like, we don't need new friends, but everybody in my communities are like my friends for sure. So I just think you whip that one out and you go, okay, let's not be silly here. If I can help you, of course I would. And if you could help me, of course we would. But I think you have to make it obvious and put it on the table.
And Rosa adds, sometimes it's our own feelings, so we don't reach out because we feel opportunistic. And I think that, you need to reach out. I think it's a total disservice to not tell people what value you bring to the world. And because they might be looking, for 1,000 people to find what exactly you have, and you're the next person over, and you just haven't said because you're worried about looking opportunistic. But if you tell them what you're doing and how you could serve them, isn't that such a great gift to say, here's how I can serve you if you needed it, but let's, talk to each other anyway, because there's a chance for a great community. But it's a disservice to not say, here's how I can help you.
Well, Rosa would know, because she is a superb coach that actually helps women who need to be unmuted. And there's a lot of very, very senior women, forget entrepreneurs, because I think we actually have more of the free right to state what it is we're looking for. But a lot of senior corporate women are in situations where they don't feel that they can say or ask for what they need, because of the protocols and the perceptions that go on in the corporate world still. So Rose is a absolute pro at helping people to step up and step into what it is they need to say, and do it in an authentic, meaningful way. You know how your voice goes up when you, oh, well, and like you're no longer speaking actually from your true self anymore. Like, that's when I always go, when I hear my voice go up, like, oh, I either don't like this person, I don't like what I'm saying, or I'm uncomfortable with my response. So that's a sort of a check-in. But yeah, put it on the table. We all look at, if I can't stay in business, I can't help you. I can't give money to charity. I can't create these communities if I'm down and out and starving. So it's just all makes a lot of sense.
And Rosa says yes to all of that, and thank you for sure. And Jill, we are past our time, so I just want to make sure that you have any thoughts on what we were just discussing there.
I'm just going to add authenticity. I know it can be hard to reach out, but somebody reached out to me from the Philippines a couple of weeks ago, right after the retreat, and said, I saw your stuff and I think children and teachers around the world need this. I'm a psychologist and I do some work with you. And so many people reach out to me and I completely ignore it. But I got on the phone with this woman and am exploring how we can start bringing my work to that part of the world. And because she was so personal and she hit my heart. And I think that what Libby said earlier about blasting everyone with the same email and not taking a minute to show me you're discerning, she showed me she was discerning, and I gave her an hour of my time, and she wants to teach my material. And I'm like, you know what? Oh my gosh, how cool would that be? And I got back to her and gave her that time because of how authentic and careful she was about that note.
Thank you. And Joanne's jumping in. She says, thank you so much. And then so we talked about being authentic. That's a critical thing for everything that we do nowadays, especially as we're in all these environments where trucks are running by, and it helps to add to your true authenticity for sure. But be sure to ask your community when you need something, but then be willing to receive it when it shows up, and take it and do what you need. So ask and receive for all of it, because as Libby said, it helps with the flow, and definitely cheer each other on. I think that's the number one thing, because life is a roller coaster. Being in corporate or an entrepreneur, it's up and down. So the more we can cheer each other on, and those the cheerleading will continue and come back to you as you need it for sure. Jessica adds in, if women don't come together and celebrate and elevate each other, who will? And she says, Libby, you're amazing. So, and Jill, I know everyone on this conversation is. I do know that.
Kudos to you for doing this and bringing people together, because it is important. And so thank you.
I will receive that compliment. Thank you. I'm better at Libby, I know you have some neat events, neat things coming up, and you mentioned a few things. So tell us what call to action you'd like us to have for you right now.
Two quick things. Jill and I are doing our second retreat in January, which will be about finding your life purpose and then incorporating that into either an existing business, a new business, or your life. And then her brother Owen and I are working on something for November, so stay tuned. And if you have any interest in knowing more about it, you can just reach out to me via LinkedIn.
Great. And Jill, what's your call to action?
Well, I love to teach and share a lot, and just started a vlog. I've gone from blogging to vlogging. So you can go to my website, jillmcabe.com, mcabe.com, 1C, /vlog, and check that out, or just reach out on LinkedIn and DM me and say hi. And I'd love to chat.
And for me, just I'm starting a newsletter, so ask@lisabragg.com, and follow me also on LinkedIn if you'd like. And that's all part of building community, is seeing what other people are doing, cheering them on, building and collecting more people that you can see, but also, to Libby's point, being discerning, because we don't need everyone and we don't always fit with everyone too. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining in. Jessica says thank you and cheers. So I think that's a nice note to leave on. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you everyone.
Awesome, guys.
We will come back to the replay. If you have any questions or comments afterwards, we'll come back in and we'll answer any questions that you have on community building and joining communities. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you.